seeing him as the surgical master that he is at geopolitics and understanding how societies function, this is exactly why his argument against Christianity is so shocking, okay? Because
against. Okay.
Yes, he literally abandons his own rules. This guy, he's absolutely blowing up on YouTube right now, man. I mean, look, I saw his video that he did a little bit close to a year ago about the Iran war. And I saved it to watch later. And the war started and I was like, wait a second, didn't some guy make some video about this? And I watched it and he was blowing up. Remember to leave your thoughts, your comments. Remember to like the video. So this guy, he actually predicted the Iran war 2 years ago. But then I saw another video of his, which I was like, oh, that looks like a very interesting video. He's a genius at geopolitical theories and understanding the world. But he talked about Jesus Christ, and that video is going to absolutely blow your guys' mind, because we have said this on this podcast. Even the smartest of people do exactly what we say people do all the time. You'll find out. Keep watching.
Man.
We're going to start with the obvious, right? Everyone knows this professor is smart. If you've seen him, if you've watched even one video of his in regards to geopolitical politics and whatever, you know he's smart, okay? He's articulate. He's confident. How he speaks to his students, you can tell. And he predicted the Iran conflict almost 2 years ago before it happened.
There are three major forces that are pushing the United States towards war with Iran. The first is the Israel lobby. Remember that the Israel lobby is composed of both Jewish interests as well as Christian interests, right? Representing the Jewish interest is something called AIPAC. And they have a membership of about 100,000. But they're very wealthy. There are many billionaires in this group. So this group has financial power. In fact, AIPAC is considered the second most powerful lobbying organization in the United States. The first is the pensioners, okay? There's about 30 million of them. And their lobbying organization is the most powerful. But AIPAC is second. But also in the Israel lobby are the Christian Zionists, right? So, for example, the organization Christians United for Israel has 7 million people in its membership. So together, the Christian Zionists and AIPAC are extremely powerful force in government. And they want a war in the Middle East in order to advance Israel's interests. Also remember that America is now addicted to empire, because empire represents easy money. All money has to be channeled through the U.S. And so there are many people in the U.S. who just basically make their money by speculating on money, okay? So for example, Wall Street. And that has made Wall Street extremely powerful right now in U.S. politics. And the third force is Saudi Arabia. Remember that in our discussion of Saudi Arabia, we learned that the major conflict in the Middle East is actually not between Israel and Iran, but between Saudi Arabia and Iran. For Israel, Iran is a security threat because it supports Hezbollah and Hamas. But for Saudi Arabia, Iran represents a threat to its very existence. Okay? So Saudi Arabia must resolve the Iran problem soon. Right? Now, how these three forces manifest themselves is through Trump. Okay? So basically, Trump is their champion.
It's actually kind of mind-blowing how well he predicted it. So he breaks down geopolitics like a daggone surgeon. If you want to talk about a surgeon, this is a surgeon for geopolitics, and he understands the power dynamics, the incentives behind why people do stuff. the collapse that happens in society's elite behavior. And he's not a lightweight. Like, this isn't one of those people who just pick. No, he's an expert.
Lightweight, baby.
In this How Societies Collapse lecture, a student asks him a question. This is where I picked it up and the dominoes began to fall. So I want to play that for you guys real quick.
But what if there is a universal target that forces everyone needs to work together? You know, will that work out to like everyone just put down all of these problems and, you know, figure out the...
Yeah, okay, I understand. That is a great question, okay? So the question, to rephrase it, okay, is, yeah, but what if there's an external threat, okay? An external threat. If there's an external threat, then surely this system, this life cycle, can be extended, right? And external threats are examples of, hey, let's say there's an alien invasion. Let's just say China's being attacked by the United States, right? And unfortunately, the answer is, it does not matter. Because once you've reached the point of a megacity, first of all, you're so selfish, you're self-absorbed, you are not aware of external threats. The other issue is, you're no longer capable of working together because you don't trust each other. Okay? So the external threats factor doesn't really matter. But that's a great question. Thank you for asking, okay? Yes, in theory, oh my God, if aliens come, then humans would unite. No, that's not what would happen, okay? What would happen is certain factions of humans would try to align with the aliens to conquer everyone else.
Humans don't unite under pressure, basically. They basically break up into little groups and they fracture. So they betray each other, factions turn inward toward against each other. And people will even side with the invader if it benefits them, because of course everyone wants to live, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. Is it clear to you?
Yeah, because, you know, I'm thinking in a couple scenarios, there is, you know, some kind of foreign monster, right? Let's say a rival gang neighborhood. You're not going to go help that rival gang neighborhood. You're going to actually hope that the monster bites them all up. But now you got to deal with the problem. Another scenario is, let's get a little bit closer. Let's give the scenario where you guys are both in the same environment. So you're stuck in a hard place where you are forced to work with each other for survival. You know, would you work with them then? I would. But if we're talking about long distance threats that we can either wait for them to get you or get me, I don't think anybody's coming to the aid.
Yep, that makes sense. And the words that came out of his mouth, that's his anthropology. That's his understanding of human nature, okay? But then in the Jesus lecture, all right, I'm going to play two little clips for you guys. He completely flips in his line of logic here, which you have to be careful with people when they do this.
Guess what, guys? There are also other groups within these different groups, and all three groups hate each other, okay? So just because you disagree with the Jewish authorities doesn't mean they kill you. It's in the Jewish tradition to argue all the time. In fact, if you go to Israel today, even though they're at war, they're still arguing with each other. Okay? That's the first thing. Disagreement, rebellion, debate is just part of the Jewish tradition. That's the first thing. Second thing is that there are certain customs and laws of the Jewish people. Okay? The Jewish people see themselves as distinct and separate from everyone else because they are the chosen people. And as we discussed before, the Jewish people, they must rest on Saturdays. And they do not marry foreign man or woman. They don't marry outside their tribe, okay? So these are two major customs. But they also, as we discussed before, they also do not charge interest when they give loans to each other. Okay? Another thing that is not written down, but which is commonly accepted is you do not betray other Jews to the Roman authorities. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, we can argue amongst ourselves, but we will not betray each other to non-Jews. Okay, we will not fight among the Romans. Okay, that's just an unwritten law at this time. So I don't think ever in history have we had a case where the Jewish people betrayed a Jew to the authorities that are non-Jewish, okay? The Jewish people, again, see themselves as separate and distinct from other people. So they will not do this. And the third piece of evidence that this doesn't happen is, remember, James the Just is the brother of Jesus. And after Jesus died, James the Just stayed in Jerusalem protected by the Jewish authorities. That makes no sense, right? If his teachings went against Jewish law, and that's why the Jewish priests had him killed, then why was James the Just, who was teaching the same thing as Jesus, allowed to stay in Jerusalem? And not only allowed to stay in Jerusalem, but protected by the Jews. Okay? So I'm not convinced that the Jews betrayed him. Also remember, we discussed this last class, but the Romans are just brutal people. They kill people for no particular reason. So they killed Jesus. They didn't care, okay? All right, so I think it's much more likely that the Romans killed Jesus for their own reasons as opposed to the Jews killed Jesus. Yes?
So the real group that killed Jesus is the Jews or the Roman?
So yeah, I'm saying that it's the Romans who killed Jesus. Oh. And we all agree it was the Romans who killed Jesus. What the Bible says is that it was the Jews who conspired against Jesus, and the Jews encouraged the Romans to kill Jesus, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So my question now is, which is it? Do humans betray each other under pressure? Or are Jews morally perfect and immune to every dynamic he says society collapses to, right? Because if he's saying this is the human nature of things, and he's saying Jews will never do this thing in human nature, then what are you saying here?
Going back to the survival thing, if it costs life, a lot of people betray each other. I mean, just look at the scale where people are going to prison. You know, how many stories do we can we research, real life stories that included best friends, good friends, betraying each other so that they can not get a life sentence or be sentenced to whatever the law, you know what I mean? Like, even in that field, people are gonna sell you out. I mean, we even have a public media one with the rappers. They've done it to get out, and some confess that they did it to save themselves. But supposedly the people that they ratted on are homies for life,
right?
And they say all these phrases that like to the death, this, that, and the third, till I die, to the last breath. All the hard phrases you want to come up with, they've said. But hey, when it came down to the pressure, the pipe busted. Pressure burst pipes, man, and they couldn't hold it together.
Yeah. Look. So that was the first clip. I'll play the second one in a little bit, but he can't have it both ways. Once his contradiction and what I just played contradicted his initial statement of the human nature, people betray each other. Once the contradiction is revealed, everything begins to fall apart. And so here is the domino one. If betrayal is possible, the gospel narratives becomes more plausible, right? It's more likely to happen if people can betray each other, even Jewish people.
Yeah.
And so a faction of Jewish leaders collaborating with Rome fits perfectly with the Jewish sectarian history. Like the factions that they had the sectarian faction, I believe it fits with why they betrayed him. Okay. And then you have the story of Josephus, you have the Dead Sea Scrolls, you have the political climate, which that's why a lot of people believe that Jesus wasn't political, because if Jesus is political, then God is political, and then it's like it's a whole line. So the political climate of the first century Judea and his own collapse theory, which I just played for you guys. And so the Gospels don't contradict history. They actually match with it. And this has been tested over and over again, even with embarrassing stories type of thing. Like some of the things in the Bible people wouldn't write about, and his wife turns around and dies. Who does that?
Wife.
Yeah, a lot. Like who writes a story like that about themselves and then portrays their wife dying? What's the point of that?
Betrayal. We see betrayal in all facets of closeness. You know, mothers with children. How many stories have you heard mothers killing their kids? That's betrayal.
If betrayal happened, then Jesus wasn't just a political nuance, because a lot of people say that, right? He brought some nuance to politics, and his teachings turned politics upside down. And so why betray him then? Why break your customs? Why collaborate with Rome? Because Jesus wasn't claiming to be a political rebel. That's not what he was doing. He was claiming to be God. That's why the Jews killed him. That's why they betrayed him. Because he was claiming to be something that is an abomination to say, even in the Jewish sectors that he claims they never betrayed each other. No Jew took that lightly, and they stoned people for that. If they can stone people for committing adultery, why would they not stone people for saying they're God? Because God himself says, thou shalt have no other God before me. That's the first commandment. Domino 3. If Jesus claimed to be God, then the professor's Jesus was just a moral teacher collapses. Because he also argues this in his Jesus lecture, that Jesus was just a moral teacher, right? He taught what every prophet taught, just morality.
Why did the Romans kill him? Right, so these are the three big questions we're looking at today. First of all, what did Jesus really believe? Second is, why was he so popular? And the third question is, why did the Romans have to kill him? And so the argument I want to make you today is what Jesus taught is what every poet prophet we studied this semester taught as well. Okay, so you look at Homer, you look at the Yahwehs, you look at Zarathustra, Plato. What do they all teach? They all teach that there is a source, okay? The source is the divine, the good, God, the universe, the monad, whatever name you have for it, okay? And the source emanates and it creates the entire universe. And we come from the source. Now, our bodies are material, okay? So our bodies come from a process of evolution. But our consciousness, our soul, is the divine spark. And it comes from the source. So after our experience here on earth, after we die, our source, our spark goes back to the source, okay? And there's a constant cycle until we, at the end, merge with the source, okay? This is what Buddhism teaches. This is what Hinduism teaches. This is what Zoroastrianism, this is what all major religions teach, okay? So Jesus was just teaching it for his times. So the question then is, if he is teaching what every person, every poet prophet taught, why is he special? He's special because the Roman Empire was particularly evil. Okay, so remember, before the Roman Empire, remember the problem of the Iliad. Okay, remember the Iliad, where Achilles cannot forgive himself, and it's Priam who forgave him, right? And we discussed how during the Iliad, during that time, we all did good and we all did evil. And so what's important is to forgive ourselves, right? As long as we find the power to forgive ourselves, we will save the world. But by the time of the Romans, okay, the Romans are just pure evil. They're demonic. And so you don't forgive yourself, right? And so the question then is, how do you explain the fact that the Romans are able to conquer the world through pure evil, and you, a person, did all good, but you're a slave? How do you explain that?
So that's a lot of assertions, and he basically asserts a new religion into his denying of Christianity. You sound disappointed.
I'm not disappointed. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I don't think he's on our team. I don't think he's on our team.
Which I think personally, I think is completely fine. You cannot be on our team, but to me, if you're gonna make such arguments that Jesus was just a moral teacher, it's mind-blowing because he hasn't dug deep into the research and findings people have spent lifetimes on. For example, how can Jesus just be a moral teacher and teach what the prophet said when no prophet actually said, I and the Father are one, or before Abraham was?
There's a lot of it's a lot of stuff he's chopping off. He's chopping off too much fat off of the cow.
Yeah.
Like, bro, how can he just be a moral teacher when he did miracles, healings? He ain't just a moral teacher. But they didn't even say that. They said, even the Muslims don't even say that. They say he was a great prophet.
He was, yep.
So you are already disagreeing with other, sectors of beliefs that don't even really hold Jesus as the Most High. They're saying something way greater than what you're saying and more dynamic. You say he's just a moral. No, you either you're not doing your homework, or you've purposely cutting off the fat because you want lean meat. Pause.
Every stream, bro. Every stream.
Listen, I gotta cover the corners, man.
Golly, man.
Gotta cover the corners, doggy.
And another thing that he says is the Son of Man will judge the world. Right? No prophet has ever said something like this. So that's not Buddhism. That's not Plato. That's not Zoroaster or something, whatever he said.
I have no idea what that is. I don't know.
You know, that's none of those. That's Yahweh. That's God talking. So if Jesus claimed to be God, the crucifixion actually does make sense because blasphemy was a capital offense. Rome executed anyone who threatened any kind of order in any capacity, and Jesus threatened both the physical order and the spiritual order. Now, Domino 5. So then, if betrayal is normal, the professor's historical objection completely collapses because he says Jews would never betray a Jew, but his own collapse theory says that humans always betray under pressure. And so if his historical objection collapses, his entire Jesus lecture collapses, which is pretty crazy because he's a professor at an actual college. I mean, even in one of his lectures, he mentioned like the educational system is here to brainwash you. He actually said that.
Guys, why do we have school? Why are we in school? Why? Why are you here? What?
Someplace learn and teach.
Exactly, right? Learn. What else? Yeah, to get the degree, okay? To get the degree. Okay, to graduate. What else? Knowledge, yes. Yeah.
Power chance to brainwash the students.
Excuse me?
I feel like give a power a chance to brainwash our.
Brainwashing. Okay, guess what, guys? The correct answer is brainwashing. Everything else is a lie. Okay. All right. What do you do in school? You come to class, you listen to a lecture, you read books, right? And then you have to do a test, and you have to write a paper, and then the teacher gives you a grade. That's how you learn, right? Let me ask you this question then. Throughout most of human history, how did we learn? If you want to become a doctor, what did you do?
To be a good, to be fast and long.
The answer is experience. Do it.
And so it's interesting that the very thing that brainwashes people is the very modality that he's using, which shows you that no matter how smart or a genius someone may be, no one can ever contemplate every single thing that comes out their mouth. That's why the Bible says any man that doesn't stumble in his speech is perfect. Everyone falls prey to this thing. We all make mistakes.
It reminds me of the form of witchcraft that's the predictive programming thing, where they show you what they're gonna do before they do it through the entertainment, medias, movies, shows. They show you, hey, this is what we're doing, and then they do it. Because I heard from a witch, like a Western witch, is that is a form of witchcraft, where you basically you come into agreement with it, in a certain way. That way, when they do it, they're free to do it. It's no boundary, because think of it like this. It's like conditioning. Like it becomes normalized. What are some examples? Pornographic images. Now we see movies with that are rated R, and you see like all kinds of like revealing of the body parts. But it's now normal when it comes to rated R films, or just in general, because it's been going on. And so now they don't have to have your permission to do certain things at different levels, because you're conditioned. So like it's the same thing of if you put the frog in the warm water instead of the hot water, he'll stay in the warm water until he gets so hot that he's like, oh shoot, I'm already gone. Like he's already dead, or gets to the boiling. Yeah, it's too late. So that's pretty much what's going on. When it comes to that side of things, like he's telling you, hey, I'm conditioning you anyway.
And which is crazy, because this is what we always say. People in this particular one, he applies logic everywhere except to Christianity. Kev on stage, he did the same thing. Hormozy, he did the same thing when you went on the Iced Coffee podcast. We've talked about a number of people that do this.
Oh yeah. And then you remember that one clip where literally the girl was like,
I believe in Jesus, I believe in God, but I do not believe everything that's in the Bible. I know God, I know Jesus, but I know everything in the Bible is not for me. I'm aware that the Bible was altered. I'm aware that it was changed, translated, and rearranged to keep certain people in power, and to keep certain people under control, certain people in fear, and certain people in poverty. When I read the Bible, if it feels like God is saying it, Jesus is saying it, I take it. If it feels like fear, I leave it. Burning in eternity after you die because you sinned, that feels like fear. I don't believe in that. I also understand that we're spiritual beings in human bodies, or physical bodies, and our physical body, when we die, stays on this 3D planet or this 3D world, and our spirit goes back to its heavenly resting place. How can you burn a spirit for eternity? How can you burn air? How can you burn a ghost? You can't. So I don't believe everything that's in the Bible. I believe what serves me. I believe what feels good, what resonates.
She's now cherry picking what she wants out, to believe out of the Bible, because it's based on feeling.
Exactly. So for example, when he talks about geopolitics, he uses systems thinking, he uses incentives, he uses factional behavior, like the groups within society. He uses historical realism, meaning he pulls from historical happenings that have happened. He uses human nature, but when he talks about Jesus, he completely abandons all of it and just says that doesn't make sense, does it? Which he switches from like making an analysis to asserting things, which we just saw in that clip there. And that's exactly why his argument collapses, because he just brought in a whole bunch of things that make no sense, and he completely forgot that I'm actually using logic in my class. This is exactly why Christianity still stands to today, because time and time again, you have people doing the same thing over and over again. Jesus didn't just predict the war, he predicted his own death and resurrection, and he fulfilled it from the Old Testament, from hundreds of years ago, right? His enemies understood his claim, the Jews and the Romans, they understood his claim. His followers died for his claim. History was reshaped by his claim. And unlike every empire that the professor studies, Jesus's kingdom didn't collapse. It literally cannot collapse. You can see that it grew it's growing, it's still growing. And because Christianity doesn't stand on sentiment, it stands on history. And when you apply the professor's own logic, Jesus ends up standing way taller than people, because what he's doing here, he's trying to diminish Jesus into this little tiny thing that happened in history that's insignificant to humanity but significant to morality. And what happens is, because he tries to diminish Jesus so much, it's like, wait, did he actually do this to a whole empire, one man, a carpenter's son? He just brought morality that no one had ever thought about in history before, and they crucified him because they were threatened by him. Well, that doesn't actually make sense, does it? Because there were people who were actually criticizing society. So why was Jesus different?
As we saw in the Bible, Judas betrayed Jesus, and even Peter.
And he was a Jew, right?
And he was a they was
Hey,
they Jew. Oh shoot!
if you guys like truth-centered breakdown and reaction of videos, you guys comment and share and like the video. It helps us a bunch. It helps us know that you guys enjoy it, and it helps us know that you guys benefit from it. So, drop your comments, drop your thoughts below.
Drop it down.
And we'll keep this up, okay? Until then, it's dialogue, folks.
It's your man Eddie Ed.
Hey, and we're out of here. Peace.
Peace. Yeah.